Hi! Welcome to my channel. Fellow students, this video is for you. Today's video is for those of you who are struggling to write a thesis or a research paper. I am no thesis expert, but I do understand the frustration of writing one. Sometimes I don't have any ideas, sometimes I have no motivation or creativity. I learned some tricks to write my thesis a bit better. I just want to point out that implementing these tips does not guarantee you an excellent mark, but would make the process of writing a thesis a bit less complicated. So during this video, I will just go through the 10 tips that I have really quickly and illustrate it on my own examples. The important part of writing a research paper is to do a literature review. So that's going to be a basis for your thesis. You have to go to a library or find some papers where you can extract some theory. Of course, there are traditional ways to do that. You can go to a university library or a city library and get your papers from there. I, on the other hand, during the quarantine cannot do that. There are great websites online where you can find research papers, and these websites are ResearchGate or Google Scholar or Academia. These websites have a lot of papers on a lot of different subjects. If you think that you cannot find a paper in a library, I would definitely recommend check out those websites for any of your topics. Tip number 2, planning. It's very important to have a good planning. If you're just starting off, or even if you have 2 weeks until the deadline, planning makes a great impact. What I usually do is I have a big Excel sheet where I have different sheets for different tasks, and I give myself a deadline. Now, if you're struggling with writing and coming up with ideas and are not meeting your deadlines, next tip is going to be for you. Tip number 3, bullet points. The trick of writing a paper is that you don't necessarily need to write it in order. It may be the case that you haven't finished your interviews, or the surveys haven't been filled out yet, or simply have no motivation to write. In that case, I recommend to make bullet points of your ideas for that chapter. Whenever I write a report, for every chapter, I make bullet points of ideas. So I don't have to write a whole chapter in one go. It's very hard and it's not going to be perfect, and I'm a very perfectionist person. In the end, I try to replace them with actual sentences. Whenever I'm inspired or motivated, I can write a whole paragraph about it. That goes a lot faster than writing it all in one go in the beginning. Believe me, it's a lot easier this way. So if you have the same problem, I would suggest that you first make bullet points of what you want to write there, and whenever you have an inspiration or time or motivation to write it, then you just replace those bullet points with actual sentences. So the structure of the report just comes easily, so you don't have to spend so much time on making a perfect paragraph. For those of you who don't know this yet, writing a paper on the first go is not going to be perfect. Tip number 4, comments. Whenever you write a report, you're not just going to write it all in one go and submit it. Usually what happens is that you write the first draft, you get some feedback, you write the second draft, adjust it, and do it about 100 more times. In the case that you're not sure about a certain word or a paragraph, what I would recommend is to leave a comment. In the Word, there's an option of creating a comment or resolving a comment or deleting one. It's a great way of keeping track of what you're doing, what ideas you might have, and maybe if you have to fix something later in the report. Whenever another person reads your report, what usually happens is that they leave a comment, so later you can check them and try to fix them yourself. Some of you may not know, I come from Kazakhstan, and I'm studying in the Netherlands. So when I first came here and I had to write my first report, I had no idea that Word has a function for making a table of contents. So when my group told me to create a table of contents, what I did was to write down the headings and ... in page, like 8 or 9, which was very time consuming, and I didn't know that there was a different way to do that. So if you're like me, and you don't know this, here's a tip. You can do this by selecting your heading and adding a style to it so that it can appear in your table of contents. There's also a function of adding a table of contents and adjusting it. You can also modify your headings And whenever you're done with it, when you click on the chapter, it will actually redirect you to that page. Tip number 6, make sure you have a clean workspace. I know a lot of people talk about it, but it's very important to have a clean workspace. It helps you to stay motivated and to stay organized and to keep distractions away from your thesis. Tip number 7, different perspective. If you can, I would recommend to let other people read your report. This tip is for those of you who can share your report to the public. If you can, I would recommend to give your paper to someone else, to your friends or to your family members, so they can read over it and give you some feedback. This doesn't only help you to find those tiny typos in your report, but also give you a fresh look. As someone who has been working your report for 2-3 months, you may be stuck, or you're not sure what to write, or maybe you're not sure that the structure of your report makes sense. In this case, let someone else read it. Listen to their feedback and adjust it. Tip number 8, supervisor. If it's a regular thesis or a paper, you probably have a supervisor. It's important to have constant communication with your supervisor. You're given a supervisor for a reason. He knows more, he has more experience, and in the end, he is the one who will grade your paper. So my tip for you, do not be afraid to contact your supervisor and ask questions. It's better that he will give you feedback now than later when he's grading your paper. Tip number 9, elaborate, research, explain, describe. What else is there? So this is for you guys who are trying to find some synonyms for your report. If you're struggling to find some words for your report so your report doesn't sound boring or repeating the same word, then Office has a feature for you. Word has this amazing feature where you just right click on the word and it will give you different synonyms. Before I knew this, I would always go to Thesaurus on the website, be searching for a different word, and then go back to my report and put that word in there. And it took a lot of time. So if you're struggling with that, just right click on your word. You will see synonyms. There you go, options. Tip number 10. When writing a thesis, you need to use papers or books, which is why you always have to reference them, usually in APA style. Whenever you reference them, you need to know the author and the date. The tricky one is the date. For some universities, this is even more important because the dates have to be up to date or recent. There are different ways to find the date of an article. You can go to the beginning or the end of the article and the date is there. Sometimes you can even find it in the URL. Sometimes it's not that easy, so you have to do some work. It may not work for all articles, but for some it might. What you can do, you can paste the URL of that article into Google search, click search, and Google will show you the date of the article. So there you go, 10 tips for writing your thesis. I think there are many more things you can do to improve writing your thesis, and maybe I missed a few. So if you're thought of any more, then please leave them in the comments below to help me or other students with writing their theses. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my channel and like the video. If I helped you even a little bit, that already makes me happy. So I hope that I helped you with writing your thesis. It's an important part of our study, and if you are writing your thesis, congratulations, you're almost done, and soon you will get your degree.